And we are recording. Welcome back to another Epidose. We got more of these crazy people that just eat meat and can't stop talking about it. Today I got a couple of my usual suspects with me. I got Ray and Justin with me. And Ray brought along his pal Chad. He's got a very interesting story to tell us. So Ray, tell us real quick how you met Chad, and then maybe Chad can tell us a story.
Chad is my client, and we had a booking. When was that, Chad? Last
Monday?
Monday? Yeah, Monday. And we started chatting, and I found out about his migraine, and I was like, "Wow, this is an awesome story. It sounds very familiar because Justin told me his story, and I was like, whoa, we got to get these guys together." Of course, we went through the course of getting him, doing the carnivore the right way and all that kind of stuff. But I was like, we need to discuss this and kind of record this before this starts, diminishing and hopefully getting a lot less, all that stuff. At least we have it on record of how you're feeling, what you're taking, all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tom, we lost you.
So how long have you been suffering from migraines, Chad?
The first migraine that I actually remember was when I was about 8, 9 years old. I had a bad concussion. I was hit by another kid on a bike and fell and hit my head. And I remember 2 or 3 days after I had a really bad concussion, but I remember 2 or 3 days after the concussion vomiting, and my head never hurt that bad, and before. And that's the first migraine I can remember. And, but ever since then, and then as I got older, they seemed like they got worse and worse. And to the point where it really started to interfere with my work and my life. And it became such a major part of my life where, still is. I mean, I can't go anywhere without sumatriptan. I have sumatriptan injections in my desk. But I was, like I told Raymond when he started coaching me, I said there's a whole nother new class of drugs that came out in June of 2018. And so I tried a few of those. I was getting Botox treatments at the time, which was about 21, small injections all around points of your head. And then these 3 drugs came out: Emgality, Avjoy, and I forget what the third one is. But I tried one, it didn't work, and then I tried Emgality, and Emgality definitely cut the migraines down. It's a once a month injection to prevent migraines from coming. But I was still getting over 15 migraines a month, which is chronic migraine.
Wait, so the Botox is actually to help the migraine also?
Yeah, the Botox, they inject it in 21 different sites around your head. It's not enjoyable, but my forehead looked good. I had no wrinkles, but I still got migraines. I still got migraines, and that the Botox really didn't help me much at all. And their side effects, you feel numbness in your face and everything. So that really didn't help much at all. The Emgality helped because the Emgality blocks a protein that they found present when people get migraines. And so Avjoy and Emgality and the other drug, they're all CRPG or something blockers. I forget what the name of the protein is that they block, but that did help. But I went carnivore in February 1st of this year. So I've been carnivore for 3 months, and I was doing my Emgality shot on the 15th of every month. It's a once a month shot. And I started carnivore on February 1st, and on February 15th, I felt well enough to not even take my Emgality shot. And I only had 3 migraines in the month of February. And then I only had 3 migraines in the month of March. And I didn't take my Emgality shot on March 15th or April 15th. April, I only had 3 migraines. So for the last 3 months, I've only had 3 migraines. I've had more than 15 migraines a month for the last probably 20, 25 years.
So this was normal. 15 was what you kind of expect per month.
15 or more. I was getting more than 15 in a lot of cases. I was getting 20, 25 days a month, and where I couldn't function, you know. And if I didn't own my own business, I owned my own business. If I always say to my wife, if I worked for somebody, I would have been fired a long time ago. I have a sister who to this day is still pretty much bedridden. She lives at my parents' house. She has never worked. And migraines are, I think, genetic. And I think also they are hereditary, because my mother and my grandmother and my aunt and my sister and my one daughter all get migraines. So, you know, it was my sister who one time I had a migraine probably about 15 years ago, who said to me, oh, I have this pill. And it was an Imitrex pill. And I had never taken Imitrex before. And I took it, and it wiped me out. But it got rid of the migraine was totally gone in 15, 20 minutes. Now today, the Imitrex or sumatriptan is the generic Imitrex. So the sumatriptan pills or the Imitrex pills, they don't work for me anymore. Now I have to do the injection.
So you do build a tolerance to it.
Yeah, I did build up a tolerance to the Imitrex, but it still works for me. When I inject these are EpiPens, and when I inject these, I inject them into my shoulder, because I figure it's pretty close to my head. So, you know, maybe it'll work better. I think, you know, if I inject it in my butt, especially when I was, you know, I lost some weight already on Carnivore. But if I inject it in my butt when I'm 260 pounds, I don't know if it'll get where it needs to be. But yeah, I mean, the amazing thing was the Emgality was the first thing that really helped prevent me from getting so many migraines. And the amazing thing to me is really 15 days, 2 weeks on Carnivore, and I felt well enough not to do that shot. And I know, you know, about a lot of different migraine triggers. Like, I have not had a drink of alcohol in about 12 years solely because of my migraines, you know. Because at the time, about 12 years ago, I was dating somebody. This is before I just got remarried last year. And so this is 12 years ago. I was dating somebody, and she was a nurse. She was actually a nurse practitioner. And she said to me, you know, every time you drink, you get a migraine, you get a headache. And I thought, and I said, you know what, I better stop drinking. You know, and I just totally cut it out about 12 years ago and haven't had a drink since. And because she was right, I was getting migraines every time I would drink. And, you know, there's certain foods and smells and perfume I can't be around. And there's a lot of triggers for migraines, you know. And,
a trigger, certain lights?
Lights, and I see Justin is wearing his glasses. I don't know if those are, they look like the rose-colored migraine glasses.
Yeah, these are Theraspec migraine glasses, you know, because I still feel myself being photosensitive, you know. I still try to down the migraine overactive brain, you know, because it's almost similar to the autistic brain in that, you know, being photosensitive, smell sensitive, texture sensitive, noise sensitive. I mean, all of these can be triggers. And I'm a huge heavy metal head that loves, you know, blaring guitars and drums and stuff like that. So it's amazing I didn't get them earlier in my life. So that's really interesting. So from the age of 8, you had 15 a month?
No, they progressively got worse, but that's the first one I can remember. And my neurologist said a lot of times for people who suffer migraines, a lot of times the first migraine is brought on by some kind of trauma, you know. And I see Ray got his blue blockers on. But yeah, I mean, a lot of times for people who suffer from migraines later in life, the first migraine was brought about by trauma. And was that what happened with you, Justin, with your car accident, or?
No, not so necessarily. So mine came on, like I said, around age 20. And there was a lot of stuff going on. Yeah, there was a lot of stressful events that I won't get into on this particular stream. But I had always had really weird like GI issues and sinus infections. So I was always kind of chronically sick. So it could be possible that I had migraines that were mistaken for sinus infections or sinus headaches for a long time, and then they just never got to the point. So my first migraine when I was age 20, I remember I had a job. I was supposed to start a job at a Halloween shop the next day. And that night, my head just started hurting, like right here, just like, it was hurting. And I was like, what the hell? And I knew my sister had migraines. So like you said, it being genetic, I think the data is in that it is genetic, because I have 2 sisters that have migraines as well. And so I kind of knew what it was for my sisters, but I didn't expect myself to get them, you know? And so the morning I called the place, I'm like, hey, my head is hurting. I don't know what the hell's going on. I think it might be a migraine. So they're like, oh, sorry, missing first day, you're out. I'm like, that's the least of my concern right now, whether or not I have the job, you know, at the Halloween shop. I go to urgent care. I had Kaiser insurance at the time. Because you can't be diagnosed with migraines by any other doctor except for a neurologist, they couldn't tell me they were migraines or give me migraine medication. So they gave me Tylenol mixed with codeine, I think. And so I pretty much downed the entire bottle and passed out, basically is what I did. Excuse me. And then I went to sleep, woke up the next day, my head kind of hurt. I remember it hurting on this side instead of this side. And then it kind of was numb. I got an appointment for the neurologist. Yeah, that sounded like a migraine. Got put on Maxalt, actually. They were like dissolvable tablets. And a preventative, I don't remember the name of the preventative, but the preventative had this really weird side effect that drove me nuts, where it constantly gave me urgency, which is the medical term for always having to urinate or always wanting to urinate.
Was it Topamax?
I think it was like a generic. I remember it being a small orange pill. And I was like, I can't deal with this. Like, I don't, and it didn't help the headaches either. So I was having headaches, the migraines, and having to pee without being able to pee. So it was like, man, this sucks. Like, forget that. So I talked to my neurologist, was like, you got to get me off this shit. Like, I can't deal with that. It was like, the Maxalt's fine. And I could take a Maxalt, be functional for a day, and then I'd get another migraine and then take another Maxalt. So my neurologist is like, well, you have to do something, because you're only allowed, I'm sure, as you know, it looks like with the injectables, it's what, like 3 a month. But when you have the pills, the max is 9 a month, because A, they're addictive, you build up the tolerance, and B, they'll give you seizures, you know, if you take them for 20 or 30 years in that kind of succession. So it's purely evil in that A, there's a medication to help, B, it kind of sucks because it knocks you out, and C, you have to ration it. It's just like, what kind of solution is this?
I actually called the drug company that makes Imitrex, and I was arguing with them saying, I need more. They were giving me like I think they were giving me 9 pills and it wasn't enough. And I'm like, well, I get more headaches than that, and I can't function without this, you know? So it's always a struggle with the insurance, you know?
Right. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes for me, I'd have to take 2 because one wouldn't cut it. One would only cut it like in half. So now I'm down to 7. I just picked up my script, you know, and now I'm supposed to go 30 days with 7, and sometimes I'm going to have to take 2. So I started doing like the butter burr and the fever few and going the herbal route. I cut citrus. I like added in almonds, I think, because they said almonds were supposed to be good. And, you know, there was this whole diet thing, you know, don't do strong cheeses, you know, and all that stuff. It kind of helped, but not really, you know. I think the butter burr and the feverfew actually helped, but I don't think it's as effective as it seems. It might be the diet change with that. I don't know. To me, it helped.
When you say helped, are you talking about the amount of migraines or the intensity?
The amount.
The amount. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it kind of stopped me from getting nauseous and vomiting from the intensity, because I would get so nauseous that I would vomit with them, and I would get vertigo from time to time as well, like straight dizziness where I can't walk. Like I fell walking to the bathroom one time, you know, and I'll be straight. Like at the time, I was going through a time of drug addiction as well, you know, so I'm sure that didn't help. And so that combination, you know, and then after that, I decided to see a naturopathic doctor who got me on all these different herbs and vitamins, magnesium, fish oils. I was taking, I think, like 11 different vitamins in the morning, you know, and it was ridiculously expensive. But that knocked them down to about 1 a week, I think was the best that I got it knocked down. And I went gluten-free, dairy-free, so because I had a full allergy panel done as well. And so, yeah, so I did that. And I was, you know, I was fairly functional getting them once a week, but sometimes it would be, you know, I'd get 2 in a week, 3 a week still. So I still wasn't satisfied. That's the thing, is just like, okay, if I can get them down this low, there's gotta be a way to totally knock them out. Fast forward, I switched supplement companies and stuff like that. Still, the best I ever did was one a week. And I was still gluten-free, dairy-free, even went plant-based, tried juicing, juice fast, all that stuff too.
Wait, you said 1 a week, so you only had 1 migraine a week by doing all
that? Roughly.
That's pretty okay.
Yeah, comparatively, no, I was in heaven compared to where I started with like every day or every other day. Don't get me wrong, like that was better, but you're still not a functional person at getting a migraine once a week. You can't take that many days off from work. You can't miss that many tests from school. You know, I'm in college, I'm working at the same time, you know, and, you know, trying to ask for extra days off, you know, hard to make the bills. I had a girlfriend at the time, and women cost money, you know, so it's just all kinds of stuff, you know, and it's like
I did the same thing, Justin. I went for the herbal and did the plant-based diet. I was vegan for 3 years. I think that did more damage to me than anything else. But in the beginning, it actually helped with my migraines a little bit. But as I stayed vegan longer and longer, my migraines actually got worse than they were before I went vegan. And I didn't even realize it because it happened so gradually. And that's when my migraines were really kind of at their peak, where I was getting well over 15 a month.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, like oh, go ahead, Ray.
Sorry, I was just saying, you're saying after a certain period of the veganism, that's where it was like, well.
Yeah, I think the toxins, I think the oxalates and other things that cause, I also think that migraines are very similar, if not also an autoimmune disease, you know, because what's actually happening is the blood vessels are swelling in your head because they think something's wrong. So it's like an autoimmune disorder, like psoriasis or fibromyalgia. And I think when you're on a vegan diet for a long time, the plant toxins in the beginning, you don't have a lot of buildup of plant toxins. But as you're vegan longer and longer and longer, it was making my headaches where I was almost having a migraine every day. And if I didn't have a migraine, because a migraine is not just a headache, it changes your whole physiology, you know? And there's been times where I did not have a headache, but I had all the other symptoms of a migraine. My breathing changed, I'm getting sweaty, I'm dizzy, I'm nauseous. I have all the symptoms of a migraine, but I don't have the headache. I give myself a sumatriptan injection and it goes away. You know, it's amazing.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like having fibromyalgia and vertigo at the same time. And you're tired and fatigued. Or what's interesting is sometimes you'll be super hyper and almost like an insomniac. And then you'll also go through, or at least I did, where I'll go through insomniac super hyper cycles, and then into a depressive cycle, and then a migraine cycle, and then an insomnia cycle, and then like that. That was kind of more my cycle, was like, I felt like I was bipolar because I was having ups and downs and then weird body pains. And I feel like sumatriptan, because I don't know if when you take it, but you can literally feel it moving through your body. And
I gotta lay down when I do it, yeah, because it's you as soon as you hit that injection, you feel it. But if it works, the headache's gone in 15, 20 minutes, and it's not a painkiller. You know, it doesn't kill pain. It just shrinks the swelling of the blood vessels in your head. And my migraines are usually always on one side or the other, behind one eye or the other. It feels like somebody's stabbing you in the back of the eye with an ice pick.
Yeah.
That bad? Oh, man.
Actually worse, because I think if they did that, at least they'd eventually hit the brain and it'd stop hurting. But this is just a continual stabbing, you know, and I don't know about you, but you end up with some sick fantasies. You're like, there's a drill over there. Maybe if I just relieve the pressure a little bit, or maybe if I legitimately took like a steak or like a big nail and just went like knocked a couple of times.
Sometimes I actually bang my head like on a door jamb when I have a migraine to kind of offset the pain. Yeah, I still do that from time to time, but the amazing thing is 3 migraines a month for the past 3 months, and primarily brought on by weather change. I have a bunch of different triggers, and reading, have you ever read, Justin, The Migraine Miracle? I'm sure you read that, The Migraine Miracle by the, yeah. And he recommends a low-carb diet, but a low-carb diet he recommends a ketogenic diet, but a low-carb diet or a ketogenic diet doesn't work for me because I'm addicted to carbohydrates. So if I have any carbohydrates, I want, you know, in a day or two, I'll be back up to a pint a night of Haagen-Dazs on the couch, you know? That's just how it works for me.
Yeah, I'm curious. Okay, so when you were a carnivore and that weather change happened and you had a migraine because of that, what was the intensity? It was like a normal migraine? Was it a little bit less? Was it a little bit more intense?
I would say pretty much it was a more mild migraine because I primarily had the headache. I didn't have a lot of the other physiological symptoms that come with migraine, because if you get a real bad migraine, you're dizzy, you're disorientated, you're very sensitive, very photosensitive, very sensitive to light. You know, I have a prescription in New Jersey. You need to have a special permit to have your windows tinted all the way around and have your windshield tinted. Oh. I have my neurologist signed off so that I could get the front windshield and the front and passenger side windows of my car tinted, because sun glare it's not only horrible when you have a migraine, but it can bring on a migraine. It's a trigger. So, so I have that. But I mean, when you have a real bad migraine, you feel like achy all over, like almost like the flu, and nauseous and just extreme pain in your head, usually on one side or the other, very sensitive to light. So, when I get a headache now these last headaches, I wasn't getting so much of the physiological symptoms. It was more of a headache. Gave myself an Imitrex or a sumatriptan injection and laid down. 15, 20 minutes, the headache was gone. But it says on my prescription that if I give myself an Imitrex injection and it doesn't work, I can give myself another one. And so, what I've done, especially for the last 3 months, is still fill my prescription because you can't get a lot of these. So I want to have a backstock in case I go through because I will have migraines in clusters where I'll have 5 migraines in a row. In 5 days in a row, I'll have a migraine. But I can give myself 2 injections a day, but I can't because even though my prescription says I can, I gave myself an Imitrex injection. A few hours later, the headache wasn't gone because it was a really bad headache. I gave myself another one and then wound up in the emergency room, ODing on sumatriptan. So they had to give me Benadryl and try to, they start me on an IV, try and hydrate me a lot, give me Benadryl, try and, stop the effect of this and give me something else to cure the migraine. But I'm allergic to morphine. So they can't give me morphine because morphine actually gives me headaches. Then a lot of times when you go to the hospital and you tell them I have a migraine, I need something to get rid of the migraine, they think right away that you're a drug addict and you just want drugs, and I don't take drugs, and if I go to the hospital, the first thing I tell them is, I have a really bad migraine and I don't want painkillers. I want to get rid of the migraine, but I don't want a painkiller. I want something like Imitrex that will shrink the swelling of the blood vessels to make the pain go away. But it's an uphill battle because, like I was saying to Raymond, it's like having a disability without a wheelchair. Like if somebody has a wheelchair, you at least know that they have some kind of disability. With migraine sufferers, it's not visible, so people think there's nothing wrong, and like you be with somebody and say, well, I can't go to that event because I got a migraine. Like my wife doesn't do it, but when we first started dating, she didn't understand. And until she understood, and she didn't understand that she couldn't wear perfume around me. So sometimes she would forget, or she would put on a jacket that she hasn't worn in a while and it still had perfume on it. And like one time we were going to an event and she got in the car after getting all dressed up for this event. And I said, are you wearing perfume? And she said, oh, I'm sorry, does it smell that bad? And I said, we can't go. You have to, and she had to go back in the house and shower and change her clothes. And we went to the event, but she had to go, shower and change her clothes because I couldn't be around that smell.
Wow.
Because it would definitely give me a headache. There's some, especially musky perfumes, can't handle it at all. Can't be around it at all. So I have actually a letter. I'm a financial advisor, so when people come in to see me, I have a letter, if it's a new client, that I send out to them that says, please do not, at the bottom, it tells them what to bring for the appointment, and then at the bottom says, please don't wear any strong smelling perfumes or anything. Doesn't always work.
You must always social distance then.
Yeah, right? Now I won't feel bad if I put a face mask on when they come in. I'm like, hey.
Right.
So do you have any theories as to why carnivore has helped? Or
I think that the lack of all the vegetables that I was eating a lot of kale, big, huge salads. I mean, you know, people say, oh, you weren't doing vegan right, or you weren't doing whole food plant-based right. Because I know there's a lot of vegans out there that eat bonbons and ho-hos and Twizzlers, you know?
Oreos are vegan.
Yeah, right. But that wasn't me, man. I was eating kale. I was eating fruits and vegetables and brown rice and beans, and I was doing the whole food plant-based thing, and went to several plant-based doctors. I'm in New Jersey, so I literally went to Dr. Furman's office. I mean, I read, you know, his book, Eat to Live, and I believed it. I thought this is the way to eat, and it wasn't for me. Being vegan wasn't, and I was vegan for 3 years, and it wasn't anything about the, you know, I didn't want to kill the animals or anything like that. I always said that if I really believed eating animals was better, I'd kill them myself, you know. But I just didn't believe that it was better at that time. I saw forks over knives, and I was kind of hooked, you know. And the hard part about it, and the reason why I remained vegan for so long, was because in the beginning it did help a little bit, because going from the standard American diet to being vegan, well, at least you're not eating all that junk and all that crap. So, but then over time, I didn't even realize how much worse my migraines were becoming. You know, it just happened so gradually that I just didn't realize. And, you know, and here I am being vegan to try and lose weight and get rid of my migraines, and I was fatter and sicker than ever with migraines. You know, I was 263 pounds when I started, you know, Carnivore, and I'm down to 238 in 3 months. So I'm down about 25 pounds, but the thing is, I feel so much better. I have so much energy. And a year ago, I could have never thought about starting to work out again. And I just ordered the X3, and it just came in today. And let me tell you something, that thing is built really well. I mean, it's got, I don't know if you guys know about X3 or anything, but I just ordered it, and I'm really psyched to start working out with it. I just did a little workout, a little test workout this afternoon. UPS guy stopped, and I grabbed that thing and ran home with it and did a little test workout. I was like, man, this thing it's awesome. No joint pain, no nothing. Because I was a big lifter back in the day, 30 years ago, when I was in my 20s. I used to work out and lift with some of the top bodybuilders and stuff. And so it's been years and years, though. So I'm looking forward to working out with that thing and not feeling pain every day. But I wouldn't have even thought about working out a year ago. I mean, a year ago I was a mess. I was seriously, a year ago, seriously considering, should I sell my practice and apply for disability? Because I go on the migraine, you know, like Facebook's sites, and there are people on there who are on Social Security disability for migraines. And I was seriously thinking about selling my business and doing that, because I couldn't function. And, you know, I have my own business, so I was able to stay in business, but there was a lot of days. I mean, if I worked for anybody else, I would have been fired 100 times over. There's no way that I would have been able to hold a job.
Now, I'm curious, when you say you can't function, you can't read, you can't write.
Can't drive to the office. My office is 3 miles from my house. I'm in my office now. This is my office. I have about a 1,200 square foot office in a professional complex with mostly all doctors around me and a lawyer next door.
So when you're in the midst of an attack, are we talking about you just have no choice but to lie down and kind of stare at the ceiling? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to lie down. And even if you do have an attack and give yourself a sumatriptan injection, you're not supposed to drive after that. You're not supposed to operate heavy equipment. You're not supposed to do any of that stuff.
But can you function? Can you get up, cook yourself something?
Yeah, I could get up if I gave my, yeah, I mean, you can, it's just, it's painful. It's like you're in constant pain, you know, your eyes are killing you. So you don't want to go outside because of the sun, you know, because the glare. You really don't want to be driving because of the glare, you know, and you just can't function. You can't think, you know, you can't. I'm a financial advisor. I have to sit here and talk to people about their investments and account. I can't even think, you know. And that's another thing, you know, the carnivore diet has given me so much mental clarity. I mean, before I went carnivore, 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I would leave the office every day and go home because I would feel like I was starting to get a migraine. I'd be fighting it, you know, and if you get chronic migraines, you will be, I was almost to the point where I was fighting a migraine almost every day. Almost every day I was fighting a migraine. And you're fighting because there's this threshold and there's different triggers, and you might eat something that you don't know adds to it. And you might go out in the sun and that adds to it. You might smell a smell, or the weather might change. And then all of a sudden you're over that threshold and now you have a migraine. So all these different things, that's what I learned from reading the book, The Migraine Miracle, which was written by a neurologist who suffers from migraines himself. And he recommended a ketogenic diet. But I just couldn't do a ketogenic diet because I'm addicted to carbs. So I might be able to eat a little bit of carbs today and knock down a whole pint or two of Haagen-Dazs, but within a few days, you know, it's like an alcoholic. I might be able to have one drink today, but a week from now, I'll be drinking, you know, a whole 12-pack, you know. You know, I might be able to have a little bit of carbs today, but within a week, I'm going to be off the rails.
Hey, Justin, so nowadays, how often do you get, I mean, you're a year and something in, how often do you get migraines?
So now my migraines, I mean, once every couple of months. So here's the thing is that for me, what I consider a migraine is me having to take sumatriptan. And I haven't had to take sumatriptan since July of 2019.
Wow.
So,
now, do you still get the prescription filled every month, though? So
I've actually stopped. I've actually been brave enough to stop my prescription. Yeah, I've stopped picking it up. I stopped calling the doctor. I've stopped seeing the doctor to get it refilled. I have some, like a super duper emergency, but so with Angela Statton's protocol, she has you stop it cold turkey. And so when I went carnivore, because I went straight from gluten-free, dairy-free to carnivore, I had a migraine for the first month. Like my head hurt for the first month. It was terrible, and I was really tired, and I was suffering from a car accident. So that probably didn't help, you know, but I had a really, really horrible transition period to finally become fat adapted. And so then I had a really bad one. So why it's July 5th and not like April or something is because I traveled to up Northern California to visit my sister for her birthday. And there was sunlight. I couldn't really have control over my food. And, you know, I was still going through the adaptation phase because I was barely 3 months in. And so I had one and I took sumatriptan because we were supposed to go out with my sisters the next day and go out dancing and all kinds of stuff. So I was like, I need to be functional the next day. So I took one, passed out, and I was okay. But before then, so one of the things I noticed is like I would get the pain, but I wouldn't get the body aches, the nausea, it's like, okay, I'm in pain, but I'm not, I have energy, which is weird. And like, I'm still functional. I remember one of the times I had a migraine. I think this was later. This was in October. And I had it like all night long. I hardly slept. And for the next morning, I decided to go see the Joker movie. You know, it was like, I've been up all night, kind of tired, but I don't really want to sleep because it's hot. You know what? I'll go crazy. I'm going to go watch the Joker movie with a headache. And in the middle of the Joker movie, it's a pretty intense film, it was gone. The migraine was gone, actually, like in the dark theater and everything, you know, which is kind of, so that taught me that, okay, I don't have to be a slave to the migraines anymore. They're gonna go away without me having to, you know, take the sumatriptan. And that is just an awesome feeling. So yes, I get the occasional headache, and I'm still troubleshooting a couple of things, weather, and I think the video with me and Karina, we kind of go over that. We're trying to figure out, because Angela Statton's theory with the weather is it's pressure, barometric pressure. And so you have to you have to adjust your sodium, potassium intake based on barometric pressure. That's Angela Statton's theory.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. What me and Karina have kind of come up with, this is more Karina than me, is histamine reactions, and that possibly with weather changes, you have a change in pollen, and maybe being more sensitive to one set of pollinators versus another because they change in winter versus, you know, fall, summer, etc. And it could just be this heat, dehydration, leading to electrolyte imbalance, which again is more the Angela Statton theory. So I've incorporated taking grass-fed ancestral supplements kidney, because it has DAO in it, which helps your body process histamine. And that seems to be helping. So even better. So I don't know with you, but like even on the days that I didn't have a migraine, I always had pressure, this really weird pressure in my head. Like it was kind of like being underwater. It was the weirdest thing. And that took the longest time to go away. I don't really have that anymore, you know?
You get postdome?
Yeah, right. The postdrome. Yes, exactly. So for those that don't know what postdrome is, there's the prodrome, which is the pre-migraine, migraine, and then postdrome. So it's like a cycle of the migraine. So you actually get a migraine way before you ever have pain. Could even be a day or 2 days before you even have pain. You kind of start this, the dominoes are already starting to tip over. And
you're fighting.
Yeah. And then the postdrome is kind of like, they call it kind of like a migraine hangover, basically. You might still have some head pain, some fatigue, some body ache, but you're not in that, like, it doesn't feel like an ice pick anymore, you know, so you're kind of feel better. So one of the first things I noticed with transitioning to carnivore is that, so unlike you, my migraines were 95% of the time right here, 95% of the time. After I went carnivore, one of the things that helped me keep it up was that one day it switched and I had it over here and it wasn't as bad. It felt kind of numbed out, like it didn't feel as intense. And I was like, okay, I must be doing something because that like never happens, you know? And then they started to come and then they started to be more on this side, which was kind of interesting. And then they eventually kind of died down and kept dying down. So yeah, so now, I mean, I consider myself migraine free, you know, not headache free, you know, but I'm able to push it pretty hard. And the times I do get the migraine is A, weather, B, sleep, and C, adherence to carnivore. So the last time I got a really bad headache, I had soy sauce. I went and had sushi with friends and had soy sauce. I had the sashimi, none of the rice, but I had soy sauce and I probably had more soy sauce than I should have, you know? And then the time before that, I had mustard. And I never used to react to mustard, but now being on the diet, you know, having mustard, I had too much mustard, you know, and then the next couple of days I had a migraine. So when I'm compliant, 100% compliant, I mean, and I'm more, I don't know if you're familiar with the term lion diet, you know.
Beef, salt, water.
So lion diet is beef, salt, and water. And that's essentially all that I do. I've increased my cheese, like my cheddar cheese, like Tillamook, on some hamburger beef. I seem to be doing fine. I'm up to 2 slices now a day if I want, and that seems to not give me any trouble because I went years without dairy. So cheese is like like candy to me now, basically, that I can have cheese again and not react. At least that way it seems. And raw milk, so I can do raw milk. That doesn't seem to mess with me, but it kind of messes with not my GI, but my love handles feel a little more plump after some raw milk. So you know, it's kind of neat, this fine tuning that I'm doing now, whereas before, and just being free of having to carry around, you know, things all the time full of herbs, or even a sumatriptan, or a natural migraine abortive, which may work, may not work. You know, I was always trying something new because I hated taking sumatriptan. Absolutely despise that drug, you know? And which, like most migraineurs do, they end up, you know, it's a love hate relationship. I love you because you take the pain away, but I hate you because I have to take you, and you make me essentially not functional anyway, you know.
And then you're hungover the next day. It's almost impossible to get into any kind of a routine, especially any kind of a workout routine, because today you have a migraine, you take sumatriptan, and you feel the headache goes away, but you can't work out after you take sumatriptan. There's no way. You just took something that shrinks all the blood vessels in your head, and it's got to shrink blood vessels in other parts of your body. You probably wouldn't be healthy at all. I mean, you wouldn't be able to. You just wouldn't be able to. And then the next day, if you have the postdome, now you're hungover from the migraine you had yesterday. You can't work out again. It's just a vicious cycle, you know. And I'm just so grateful that Carnivore has helped me so much. I mean, 3 migraines a month for the last 3 months is like a record for me. And I know why I got the migraines. Each day, it's usually the change in the barometric pressure. So it's sunny today, it's starting to cloud up, it's going to rain tomorrow. I get it before the rain comes. You know, now we can look on our phone and see the rain clouds coming. But before we had that, I used to tell my parents, "Oh, it's going to rain tomorrow, and it's nice and sunny out." They would say, how do you know?" I know because my body is starting to feel a migraine coming on. You know, I'm starting to fight it. But I'm looking forward to, and I'm experimenting now, and I just started this week after my meeting with Raymond, and he was, you know, coaching me about starting to look at doing some fasting. And so I'm just trying to start doing some fasting and see if that maybe helps more eliminate some of the migraines. Do you do any fasting, Justin?
So I've started to kind of experiment. I do naturally now, well, because of quarantine, I'm not really moving around a whole lot. So back to the exercise, I just want to back up a little bit. I was exercise intolerant from like my mid 20s all the way until I started Carnivore. And then it was roughly 7 months into Carnivore that I wanted to exercise. My energy level was consistent every day, and I just had this drive to do more. My energy level was through the roof. And so I started hitting the gym. I mean, 3, 4, 5 days a week. And like, you know, a couple of times I even worked out with the migraine. My head was hurting, but I was still able to hit the gym, even with the gym lights and everything like that. I went home, drank some salt water, went to bed, and I was fine the next day. So I really tried to push it just to see if I could walk the edge, you know, because pain, I can deal with pain. It's all the other symptoms you talk about, you know, the fatigue and all that other stuff that really makes it difficult to live. But yeah, so now that I'm not working out and, you know, conditions and whatnot, I'm doing just 2 meals a day, and I do roughly the 16-8. So I fast for 16 and eat in an 8-hour window. Roughly, I'm not always 100%, you know, but that's roughly where I'm at. And I think that cuts down on the histamine reaction for me, having only 2 meals. So maybe that's why they've gone down. But yeah, I feel even less under my current situation. Again, so long as I'm compliant. So yeah, but I did one 24-hour fast, and the next day I did have a migraine. Although I probably pushed myself on that 24-hour fast. Like I went for like a long walk in the sun. I I think I did like 280 push-ups that day. Like,
Oh, that explains it. I was wondering why you got hurt that bad. Gotcha. You must have been feeling good then.
yeah, I was feeling great, but I think I'm the kind of person that I'll push myself in anything until I hit a wall, and I disable myself pretty much. So I know I messed up there, but I felt great. Had a headache, had a migraine like the next day. Again, not trying to take medication, just didn't feel as great, and it felt like my body took a day or two to recover. I'm a lot leaner than you too. I mean, that's not to be offensive or anything, but I'm 5'7" and 133 pounds soaking wet. So, I
I got 100 pounds on you.
right.
Well, one of the things I just did today was I just ordered a glucose monitor because I want to see when I do get these headaches if my glucose changes. And then I also want to see when I'm fasting because I eat a little bit of fat here or there, I eat a little bit of tiny bit of cheese, like maybe 100 calories or so, or I have a bulletproof coffee while I'm fasting. So I want to see if that's going to affect, a rise in glucose, if it's going to, affect an insulin response. And so I'm just curious to, wear that thing for a couple of weeks and see, when I get a headache, is my glucose, rising, or does it have any effect on that or anything,
Those are good questions to ask.
Yeah.
We frequently talk about, why people come to Carnivore, and, we have I have some pet theories to talk about. And I think a lot of people would be surprised how many people were on a plant-based diet or were actually vegan at one time and came to Carnivore because they're so polar opposite, And so I'm always curious, like, what was it like for you shifting to a vegan diet? And then what was it like for you shifting to a carnivore diet? And how was your compliance? What were your struggles? What were your thoughts when you first heard about an all-meat diet? Kind of run me through the inner workings of that, if you would.
Sure. So when I first started out with the vegan diet, that's a much bigger change than going to carnivore, I think, because you really have to do a lot of food preparation. All those foods require a lot of preparation. So I was making these big containers of soup that I would put in the refrigerator and take some out each day to eat. I was, you're always prepping vegetables and cutting up vegetables to make a big salad, and you're always cooking some kind of beans or brown rice, or, there's just a lot of preparation, a lot of cooking, you really have to plan ahead with a vegan diet. If you want to be compliant. And I was compliant. I ate a clean vegan diet, whole food, plant-based diet. And I have my blood work from then. I went to a vegan doctor who did a very extensive blood panel on me, and I still have it. So I'm looking forward to maybe in a couple more months. I've only been carnivore for 3 months. The switch to carnivore, when I was vegan, when I was whole food plant-based, I was really pretty close to what Dr. Furman recommends. And, if you're trying to lose weight, he recommends, only 1 cup of like a rice or some kind of carbohydrate. He's almost like a low carb vegan. So I was kind of doing that, even though I was fatter than ever. But when I switched to carnivore, I really didn't go through a lot of the struggles that a lot of people go through with the keto flu or any of that kind of stuff. It was really a smooth transition for me. I did have what Joe Rogan talks about with the liquid going to the bathroom, with the diarrhea constantly.
I have a theory with that.
Yeah. Well, I still have it sometimes.
Let me guess, you're a coffee drinker.
Yes. Yes.
So what happened to me, because I came to carnivore from keto, I'm no stranger to fat coffees and stuff like that, but I could have a little bit of black coffee and there was no problem. If I put anything in that coffee, I got diarrhea on
Okay.
Carnivore. Anything.
And,
It didn't matter if it was heavy whipping cream or butter or
That's what I use.
erythritol or xylitol or monk fruit. Any of that stuff, I guarantee there's going to be an urgent evacuation. So,
Well, one of the things I do is I don't use any sweeteners at all, even if they would, I guess, technically be allowed on Carnivore, because even if it's an artificial sweetener, it's just going to, um, tease my addiction to carbohydrates and make me want to eat carbs,
sure.
So I do have some, I have grass-fed butter. I mean, in the morning I have a coffee with grass-fed butter and a little heavy cream, and that kind of extends my fast until noon. And then at noon, I'll usually have lunch. I'll usually have some kind of meat. Been experimenting making all kinds of things, but a lot of times I'll just have a hamburger with maybe some cheese on it, maybe not. If no cheese on it, I might throw some butter on it. And then dinner, I'll usually have either a ribeye or maybe another hamburger. I like the hamburgers. I bought that Ninja Foodie, and that thing just makes doing the carnivore diet so easy. I cook bacon in there. I cook ribeyes in there, hamburgers. I mean, they all come out great, and it's just, they sell them at Costco for $149. So I picked up one of those, and that's just made doing the carnivore diet a whole lot easier for me. I could just throw a burger in there, set it, and walk away, and it's great. And
yeah, I think vegans or anybody who's been on a strict diet have an advantage coming into Carnivore because they've already figured out that discipline to be compliant. And then on top of that, they find out how easy it is. And our friend Emily will brag about how she doesn't even cook her food. She eats nothing but raw meat and raw fat all the time. And she had a miraculous recovery from bipolar disorder and MS. And then in my case, I'm going to say I cook my meat half the time. So like it's really fresh. I'll eat fresh steak all the time, and then raw, and then I'll cook, some too. So I'm kind of 50-50. It just depends how fresh it is for me. So it can be a very easy diet as far as food prep. Because like you said, a lot of the other diets, even keto gets complicated, So, and there can be a fair amount of prep in that. And then with Carnivore, it could be really simple, really straightforward. So,
well, the other thing is I get to go out to eat too. Like I can go out with my wife and to a restaurant and have a steak or something. Which when I was vegan, I really had a hard time doing that. What were you going to say, Raymond?
I have a client that was telling me they did this electrolyte, and that seemed to get their diarrhea down. So not sure if that would actually work for you. Worth a shot, I guess.
Yeah, I've been thinking about cutting out the coffee, but it also helps me go to the bathroom too. So
No, I'm not talking about cutting out the coffee. Just go ahead.
Yeah.
Just go ahead and do an extra electrolyte.
I always encourage people to do experiments. I mean, I've cut out coffee. I love coffee. I currently have cut it down to almost never for other reasons. Because like I said, black coffee didn't really seem to present a problem. It may actually aggravate my psoriasis. So I'm like, well, I need to just figure out why I had a flare up, and I'm taking it out. But in the end, coffee can be an appetite suppressant, and it can stimulate the digestive tract and move things along a little faster. So it could have an effect both ways. And I think that can be confounding for people, because one person will tell you it's an appetite suppressant, and the other person will tell you, well, it's a laxative, and then they wind up emptying their bowels faster than they're hungrier faster. So, and then we know that it seems like coffee can block the absorption of nutrients, and, particularly of minerals, can throw off because I noticed when I cut out coffee, It didn't matter if I took, if I got just a straight caffeine supplement to replace it, I wouldn't get muscle cramps. But if I drank coffee, I would get muscle cramps with the equivalent amount of caffeine. So it's not the caffeine, it's something else in the coffee, in my case anyways. So, and I don't necessarily recommend it, other people do experiments like that, but I'm always curious about what's going on and how they affect people, because it's real easy for everybody to believe the same thing, you know, and it's, we keep learning we're all individuals, you know, we keep learning that like different cut of meat, or cooking meat, not cooking meat, when we eat, how we exercise is just going to be different for different people. I came here primarily because of arthritis, and Justin and you have migraines, and then Raymond had really serious digestive issues, right?
Everything. He had all the problems.
So, we're just glad he's out of the psychiatric ward now and free to roam about. So
one of the other things I noticed recently is my doctor had put me on a very low dose of blood pressure medication for the migraines. It's a drug called atenolol, and it's used for migraines. A lot of people who don't even have high blood pressure take it for a migraine prevention. And I have been still taking that, but this past week I stopped taking it because I was checking my blood pressure every day. And when I first started taking atenolol, when I was plant-based, my blood pressure was like 135 over 85, 140 over 90. And I checked it this morning, it was 117 over 70. So I'm not going to take something that's going to lower my blood pressure much more than that. And, you know, I've been eating a lot of bacon and hamburgers and ribeyes and all the stuff that they tell me is going to clog my arteries, and it seems to be doing the opposite.
well, and it sounds like you're getting a fair amount of sodium, which is supposed to elevate your blood pressure, which, you know, I think people now are starting to have a more sophisticated understanding of sodium isn't necessarily an issue for most people. And then for those who have an issue with sodium raising their blood pressure, it's usually because of their diet. So, yeah.
Yeah, I've been putting Redmond's salt on hamburgers, on everything. And I used to never put salt on anything when I was a vegan. It was no salt, no fat. You know, it was no salt, no fat. And I was fatter than ever because I was probably eating way more carbohydrates than I should have been. So,
Cool. So I just want to mention about the measuring your glucose, and are you going to do ketones too, or just glucose?
well, I was just going to do glucose, but I could get keto strips, you know, and see how that goes.
So yeah, so a part of Angela Statton's group, measuring was required. So I would measure my glucose and my ketones regularly just to see your cycles. Personally, I never saw a huge difference unless like I went like high ketones to low ketones, or high glucose to low glucose, which usually kind of seems that, so it's just huge, big changes. But like if I fasted, I could get my ketones as high as like 2.5 or so, and as low as 0.3. And on either spectrum, I didn't have a migraine. And my blood glucose was typically 85 roughly every time I would measure it. And so I was like, well, my head hurts, my glucose is 85. That's no change, you know? So I stopped measuring because I couldn't make any kind of, it didn't provide enough, any kind of information for me that seemed to be helpful. I don't need a ketone monitor or a glucose strip to tell me I'm stressed or that I didn't sleep the night before, or that the weather changed, or that I wasn't compliant with the diet, you know? So it's just like, oh yeah, of course it's up after I had, you know, 5 sweet potato fries at a restaurant, you know, like duh. And so, you know, it's interesting to see, and you know, if you can find a pattern, awesome. I'm just saying for myself, I wasn't able to, especially if you're on strict carnivore, you know. Um, and then the other thing is, you know, I just think, you know, if you don't have to spend the money, don't spend the money. You know what I mean? Like, you know, that's kind of my thing about being carnivore, is just how much money I don't have to spend on supplements, strips, medication, gas to doctors, you know, whatever, all that stuff. Like, I feel like I'm loaded, you know, I'm rich, you know.
Well, I'm spending a lot less money on food since I've been carnivore, and I buy ribeyes at Costco, you know, whenever they have them now. But you know, but I go in there and I buy, you know, 3 or 4 packs of them. But then I don't go back to the supermarket. You know, I try and go as infrequent as possible now that we're on a lockdown. But when they have them, I buy them up, and my freezer's full. So I'm ready for Armageddon.
There you go.
So we don't lose power.
And then I'm just kind of curious. So you never went keto. You kind of tried, or never officially went
No,
keto?
I did go keto years ago, and I did the Atkins thing back in the day, and felt better. But I could never stick to it. It was so hard for me to stick to, and I didn't realize at the time why. I didn't realize that I was having, you know, that 30 grams of carbohydrate a day was going to lead to 300 grams, you know, one day soon, you know, because I'm addicted to carbohydrates, and I have to treat it like an addiction. I have to treat it like an addiction. And I think maybe doing the carnivore diet, I love the carnivore. I love eating this way. But I think for those of us who have had health challenges, and the carnivore diet has reversed those health issues, I think it's a lot harder for us to cheat. I mean, for me, it is. Like, I don't want, and I know what would happen if I went off carnivore. I know that I would go back to having, you know, horrible migraines, not be able to function, not be able to work out, not be able to enjoy life, you know, and I know that that starts with taking any kind of artificial sweetener, real sweetener, fruit, anything that's going to make me want more carbohydrates. So I do an extremely strict carnivore, except for coffee. I mean, that's the only real thing. And I just put butter and a little heavy cream in my coffee. But other than that, I don't mess around at all, because I can't go back.
Yeah, that's why I'm super strict, and that's why I'm like lion diet. So my last 2 questions, I guess, are just that so then you experience no adaptation symptoms, and how much meat are you saying you eat in a day? How many pounds roughly?
I don't know that I would measure it by pounds. I have one big ribeye for dinner, and like sometimes I can't even eat the whole thing. You know, like last night I was like 3/4 of the way through, and I just gave the rest to my wife and said, I can't eat. Those ribeyes at Costco are pretty thick, and they're pretty good size. I try to eat the whole thing, but a lot of times I can't. And then usually for lunch, I'll just have a hamburger or 2 if I'm hungry, and you know, maybe some cheese on it. I don't do any snacking between meals or anything. And usually for breakfast, I'll just have coffee with some butter and heavy cream in it. I did add up my calories one time if I eat like that throughout the day, and you know, it's around 2,000 calories. What I just talked about, give or take. For a while I was having 2, and sometimes I'd get carried away and have 3 bulletproof coffees in the morning, and I think that probably prevents weight loss. So I've cut it down to, you know, I'm pretty strict now, just doing 1 a morning, and hopefully I'll start to see more weight loss. I'd like to get my weight down.
I'm curious, what exactly did you put in your bulletproof coffees?
I put
Particularly what
about
types of fats?
a tablespoon and a half of Kerrygold, and you know, just a little bit of heavy cream. I would say 3 tablespoons of heavy cream, something like that. And that's all I put in the bulletproof coffee. So, you know, once in a blue moon, I have a container of MCT oil. Once in a while, I'll put a shot of that in there, but I haven't really been using the MCT oil. I just put the Kerrygold butter and the heavy cream just for taste. And I've just been having one a morning, and I've started, you know, dropping weight again. So I just really do it so that in the morning I can extend my fast a little bit, because I'm hopeful, and I'm thinking that I'm not getting an insulin response from the bulletproof coffee, and with the glucose monitor, that'll tell me for sure. And then if I am getting a glucose response from the coffee in the morning, then I'll go ahead and cut that out. You know.
It's always interesting to note too, like what your waking glucose is. So that could be a pretty good marker. So particularly, let's say most people have some fatty liver or something, and in theory, like as that tapers off, as you use up that visceral fat, your morning glucose levels tend to decline. I mean, it's not true in everybody's case, but it's a nice thing to know that, you know, something like that gets pretty serious, especially in older age, that it is being resolved by just a better diet, you know.
I was diagnosed with fatty liver too. So I know that's something I want to get down. And my face has really thinned out a lot. And I've heard that, you know, if your face is thinning out, that means you're burning visceral fat. I don't know how true that is, but that's what I heard. Sounded good to me.
Yeah, it's a nice idea. It'd be interesting to see if it pans out. So, but yeah, if I were you, I would check your glucose when you wake up, and then check your glucose after you've metabolized that coffee. It's hard to say how long it takes, because it could start showing up in 30 minutes, or it could take a couple hours. So
yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm hopeful that I'll get some usable information out of using the glucose monitor.
I say that curiosity is the most underrated form of intelligence. I try not to encourage new people to anything to do too much experimenting, because you could trip yourself up, or you can go down a rabbit hole and never come back, you know. But I like to experiment myself. So, and I think the more people out there, particularly that learn to measure their blood sugar, the better. You know, I mean, just you raising somebody else's awareness who has no idea that they can measure that and see direct results from what they're eating, you know, particularly in this day and age with, you know, type 2 diabetes, metabolic disorders, and fatty liver syndrome, COVID-19, you know, whatever. Or I'm sorry, the Takati virus. So.
Takati virus.
I want to be as healthy as possible if I get that. And that's another reason why I would like to get my weight down and make sure my metabolic syndrome is under control. And, you know, looks like Ray had to run off and host another meeting.
Yeah, probably.
So yeah, I mean, did you have any questions about my migraine story at all? Or, I mean, I feel pretty wrapped up. There's so much more we could get into, and maybe we can have you on again, or maybe me, you, and Karina and Tom can do another migraine stream, you know, because it's such a pervasive condition. I do want to mention one thing for those that don't know. So the diagnosis of migraines is a 10-to-1 female to male. So it's actually quite rare that me and Chad both have suffered with migraines. And that just makes the journey, there's a kind of male journey, and it's especially difficult as male seen as the provider, etc. And it kind of damages your manhood in some way, or it certainly can. And, you know, like what Chad was talking about earlier, being on the migraine Facebooks and seeing men especially having such a hard time with the decision to go on disability, you know, or giving up a business, or starting to work, or, you know, letting their wife, you know, pay the bills and they stay home with the kids and stuff like that. And that isn't some sexist thing. It's just a real reality for a lot of men that's not talked about even in the migraine community, because the migraine community is and I'm using this word, but I don't mean it in an offensive way, gynocentric, just because of the diagnosis being disproportionate.
Will you share this on some of the migraine blogs or some of the migraine? A lot of them seem to be very, like if you go to some of them, some of the Facebook groups, they seem to be very almost supported by or started by some of the pharmaceutical companies.
Well, you're welcome to share this. We can send you the link. You can share this video wherever you like. I'm sure just, well, I'm not in any migraine groups, but there's no, I don't put any limits on where people can share it or whatever. So we're all about just trying to help people out there have a better quality of life and raise awareness that, you know, changing your diet can have a tremendous impact on your quality of life. I mean, that's really my mission. You know, that's what I do. I'll tell you, my niche is actually the autistic community. So I run a group on Facebook called Autistic Carnivores. Quite a few of the people that I do videos with are autistic as well. And so that's kind of my niche. I got thrown out of all the psoriasis and arthritis groups I was in for mentioning diet. So I don't really belong to too many because, you know, it's the same thing. It's like, you know, there's people that hate people who eat meat. There's the people who hate the idea that diet could have much to do with it. And if apple cider vinegar isn't the cure, they don't want to hear it, you know?
Yeah.
Stuff like that. So, and you're just suggesting that there might be a cure. It's like, well, you can't cure that. You can't cure arthritis. You know, you can't cure type 2 diabetes. So they get all technical about what a cure is, what a cure isn't. And then you
can't cure migraines. I mean, no neurologists, they'll tell you you have them for a lifetime and you have to just live with it.
Yeah. I want to see if I can get glasses like yours.
Yeah, I'll send you the website. We'll probably post it at the bottom. We're always looking for sponsorship. Who did we talk about today? We talked about that air fryer Chad mentioned, ancestral supplements. Come on, we could have a code just like Paul Saladino. Come on, we're big enough. We're good enough, you know.
Yeah,
I
suppose technically we can set something up like that. I haven't done anything like that yet, but it would make sense.
Yeah.
So.
It's been great talking with you guys. Thank you for inviting me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it was nice meeting you. And yeah, if you ever want to come back and talk some more, or you just want to complain about Ray, that's fine.
Yeah, he's coaching you right.
Yeah, I have a meeting with him next week, so we'll see how it goes. But maybe you know, in another 3 months, once I'm 6 months carnivore, or maybe once I'm 9 months or a year. Yeah. You know, see if I'm able to, you know, get it to the point, you know, where Justin is, where I have fewer and fewer headaches to the point where I don't have to take sumatriptan anymore. I'm not at that point yet, but I've made unbelievable progress in the last 3 months. And for anybody out there suffering from migraines, they ought to go to MeatRx and take a look at how to do the vegan, how to do the carnivore diet. And don't do a vegan diet because it could really change your life. It changed mine.
Yeah, well, and I tell people all the time, like I've had very little effect on the people right around me, like immediate family and stuff like that. And that's one of the reasons why I make videos and I post stuff on Facebook, because there's lots of people out there who are ready to hear it. They're ready to try it. They're tired of suffering and they're tired of taking drugs. You know, and we're not saying everybody's going to be healed overnight. Everybody's going to be cured instantly or anything like that. But just having to take a lot less medication or just suffering a lot less, you know, I mean, migraine sufferers in particular, you guys go through these streaks of being debilitated where you just can't do anything. You're just being robbed of your time, you know, and you're suffering physically. You know, it's a terrible thing. So, I mean, I could say the same thing about arthritis, you know. So anyways, just to let people know that things can get drastically better. A carnivore, like you said, doesn't have to be real expensive. You can eat really well and spend less money than you used to spend, you know. And then you're not spending as much money on medications, doctor visits, gas to go see the doctor, just like Justin said. So you get a lot of your time back. And like I said, some of us don't spend hardly any time prepping food. I mean, I ate a New York strip this morning raw, and it took me less than a minute to cut it up, probably. So, and I'm not saying people need to eat raw, but some people just like raw meat. I mean, it's just how it is.
I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, it's not for everybody, and I don't even know that there's anything better about it. When they did the study, there's kind of like two branches of study. One said that cooked meat is slightly less nutritious. Some of the nutrients are destroyed in the cooking process. And another one suggested that some of the nutrients are more bioavailable when they're cooked. So there's no conclusive science on it. Some of us have just noticed that when we eat raw meat, we feel better. Like you get a little bump from it. We don't know what that is, and we don't know what the science is. Maybe it's all in our heads, but definitely being on carnivore is easy if you can just get there. If you screw up, I try to tell people, man, don't beat yourself up if you fall down the carb hole, and you can come back out. Somebody will throw you a line. And the other thing is, maybe you could tell people why you hired a coach.
I hired a coach because I figured that Raymond had kind of done what I wanted to do. Not that I wanted to get all ripped up like he was, but I figured he knew what he was doing, and he's lost a lot of weight, and I want to lose some weight and get in shape. So that was one of the things. But he also had problems with autoimmune disorders, and I even though they weren't migraines, I really believe that migraines are an autoimmune disorder, and his autoimmune disorders were cured through carnivore, and mine were made much, much better through carnivore, and hopefully eventually be cured. So I kind of wanted to see what his protocol was, what he's doing. I know he believes in fasting, and that's something I hadn't started doing yet. And then when I spoke with Raymond, he kind of gave me a protocol that he was following, and he said, why don't you try this for a little while and see how it goes. And he had some really good suggestions as far as how to fast, and it was just something that I never did, and I didn't want to. I did read Jason Fung's book, and I've been on every diet out there. Like I said, I did Atkins and keto.
Wait, were you on the baby food diet?
No, that one I wasn't on. That one I was.
Diet.
The what? Banana diet?
Banana diet.
Freely diet.
You name. Well, I shouldn't say you name it. I've done it because I haven't. But South Beach. I mean, all these diets I did, Mediterranean diet, all that stuff.
Sure.
Weight Watchers at one time.
Sure.
And so did all this stuff, and always would lose the weight. I was a professional at losing weight, but I would always put it back on. And then after I read Jason Fung's book, he suggests that there's really two phases to losing weight. The first phase is losing the weight. The second phase is fasting and lowering your body's weight set point. And that was something I had never done. So I knew from reading his bio, from reading Raymond's bio and watching the videos, that he had done fasting. And so rather than reinvent the wheel, I figured I would just hire him, and he could guide me on fasting, because I think if I want to get rid of, number one, if I want to keep the weight off that I've already lost and lose more, I'm going to have to fast, because I need to reset my body's weight set point. And number two, if I want to get rid of my migraines for good, I think I need to fast. I think I need to fast. That's how I feel. I feel like I need to fast. And so I did a 36-hour fast on Wednesday, 2 days ago. It was the first one I did. Had a headache Wednesday and Thursday. Did 2 sumatriptan shots. So far this month I've had 2 headaches. Could have been from the fast, but we also had rainstorms coming across, and it could have been from that. So I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Maybe I can't. I did a 36-hour fast, so maybe I can't fast for 36 hours, but we'll see. We'll see. My plan is for next week to fast Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 36 hours each day. We'll see. If I start to feel like I'm getting a headache after 20 hours, or, I'm going to play it by ear. But it's experimenting, and I know I have to fast. So, I'm losing weight. I'm going to lose more weight, and I'm only going to put it back on probably if I don't fast. So I need to do that.
Yeah, resetting the set point for body fat, that's the trick. So I would think if somebody's going to fast, you really got to do what they can to figure out how they can do that, because there's all kinds of fasting. There's all kinds of methods for fasting. And fasting is a very powerful tool, but it's not a hammer you can use for every situation, unfortunately. So
Well, I had done some 20-hour and then 4-hour eating window. I had done that for a while before I spoke with Raymond. And then after I spoke with him, we talked about it, and we kind of came up with a program for me. And we'll see how it goes. And, you have to, I guess, just try different protocols and see what works for you.
I'm always surprised at how many people are critical. They're like, "Oh, carnivore coach, why would you pay somebody just to tell you to eat meat?" And it's like, well, it's a fair question, but obviously there's like people that they have all kinds of questions. I mean, you're a financial advisor, right? So, I mean, why would you hire somebody to tell you what to do with your money?
Yeah, especially now. It's not like it was 30 years ago where you couldn't, buy stocks on your own. Now you can open
Right.
it online and you can buy and sell stocks and mutual funds on your own.
Right.
What do you need me for?
Right.
So yeah, same kind of thing,
All right. Well, it was good meeting you, and we wish you well. And we hope to hear that you're making good progress. And congratulations on fewer migraines.
Thank you.
That's very good news, and we're glad you came on to share that. I really appreciate you taking the time to tell your story, because I guarantee you it will help somebody out there, probably eventually a lot of people. So it's good that you were willing to speak up. So
Thank you for having me on, and thank you, Justin. And let's keep in touch.
Yeah, 100%. Will do.
All right.
All right.
All right. Well, I want to ask people to go ahead and leave comments on the video, subscribe to the channel. It really helps. And
find the channel. What's the channel? The name of the channel?
If you
we'll
just
link
look
it
for,
to you.
Yeah, we can send you a link, but if you look up Thomas Allen Clark, you'll find it. So I've got I don't know, over 100 videos by now. So anyways, everybody out there who watched this, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe send the link on to somebody out there who will be helped by it. And until next time, feel better. Don't fall down the carb hole.